The engine of my 10-year-old sedan rattled violently as I turned up the long, winding driveway of the Sterling estate. To anyone else, this house was a masterpiece of modern architecture. Glass walls, manicured hedges, and a fountain that probably cost more than my entire college education. To me, it was just the arena. My name is Mason. For the last 5 years, my family has looked at me and seen nothing but a failure. A college dropout, a drifter, a guy who works odd jobs on his laptop in coffee shops while wearing hoodies and faded jeans. Today was my father's 60th birthday. It was also the day my stepmother, Elena, and her son, Bryce, planned to bury me once and for all. I parked my rusted car between a gleaming Porsche and a Bentley. As I stepped out, adjusting the collar of my cheap, off-the-rack suit, I saw him. Bryce was standing on the porch, holding a glass of champagne, wearing a bespoke tuxedo that screamed, "New money." Well, Bryce called out, his voice carrying over the music of the string quartet playing in the garden. The prodigal disappointment returns. Did you valet your car, Mason? Oh wait, I forgot. We don't valet scrap metal. 2 waiters nearby stifled a laugh. This was Bryce's favorite pastime, treating me like the help. Happy birthday to Dad, Bryce. That's all I'm here for? I said calmly, walking up the steps. Elena emerged from the house, looking like a vulture draped in diamonds. She blocked the doorway. She didn't hug me. She didn't smile. She just looked me up and down with a sneer that could curdle milk. Mason, she sighed, as if my presence exhausted her. Listen, we have important investors here tonight. People from the venture capital firm. People who actually matter. Do not embarrass us. Stay in the back, near the kitchen. If anyone asks, you're a distant cousin. Or better yet, say nothing. Good to see you too, Elena, I said, my voice flat. I'm serious, she hissed, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. Your father is announcing the succession plan tonight. Bryce is taking over Sterling Manufacturing. We are merging with a massive tech conglomerate called Omni-Sys. If you ruin this deal with your poverty-stricken aesthetic, I will have security throw you out. I pulled my arm away. Omni-Sys? Is that the deal Bryce landed? Yes, Bryce interjected, puffing out his chest. I've been negotiating with them for months. They're going to buy us out, keep me as CEO, and inject $50 million into the company. Something you wouldn't understand, Mason. It's called business. I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep from laughing. Right? Omni-Sys, good luck with that. I pushed past them and went inside. The house was already packed. The elite of the city were there, politicians, business tycoons, and socialites. In the center of the room stood my father, Arthur Sterling. He looked older than I remembered. His shoulders were slumped. His smile didn't reach his eyes. He was a good man, a brilliant engineer, but he was weak when it came to Elena. She had slowly isolated him, convincing him that I was a lost cause and that Bryce was the son he never had. Dad, I said, approaching him. His eyes lit up for a second, a flash of the old warmth, before he nervously glanced over my shoulder to see if Elena was watching. Mason, he said, gripping my hand. You came. I didn't think you would. I wouldn't miss it, Dad. Happy 60th. I handed him a small, simply wrapped box. He looked at it, then at the expensive watches and car keys piled on the gift table from other guests. Thank you, son. Really. Dad. I lowered my voice. Are you sure about this merger? About giving the company to Bryce? Arthur sighed, looking defeated. The business is in trouble, Mason. We're hemorrhaging money. The manufacturing sector is dying. Bryce says this Omni-Sys deal is the only way to save the employees' pensions. I have to trust him. I'm too tired to fight anymore. Just be careful, Dad. Things aren't always what they seem. Before he could respond, Elena swooped in, linking her arm through Arthur's and practically dragging him away. Arthur, the representatives from the bank are here. Come, stop wasting time. She shot me one last glare before pulling him into the crowd. I spent the next hour exactly where they wanted me, in the shadows. I grabbed a sparkling water and leaned against a pillar in the back, watching the circus. Bryce was working the room, loud and obnoxious, spilling wine as he gestured wildly. He was telling anyone who would listen how he single-handedly saved the family legacy. I took out my phone. I had one unread message from a contact named JR. It read, "We are 5 minutes out. Are you ready to proceed?" I typed back, "Green light. Burn it down." The music died down around 8 p.m. Elena took the stage, tapping a microphone. The room went silent. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Tonight is about celebration, but it is also about the future. As many of you know, my husband Arthur has built sterling manufacturing from the ground up. But the future belongs to the young, to the bold." She gestured to Bryce, who bounded up onto the stage, throwing his arms up like he'd just won a heavyweight title fight. "Thanks, Mom," Bryce said, taking the mic. "Look, I'll keep it short. I'm a closer. That's what I do. While some people—" He looked directly at me in the back of the room, and a few heads turned. "Are content doing nothing with their lives. I've been out there hunting. I am proud to announce that as of tonight, I will be stepping in as CEO. And my first act? Finalizing our acquisition by the global tech giant, Omni-Sys." Applause broke out. Polite, wealthy applause. "In fact," Bryce shouted over the clapping, "the acquisition team from Omni-Sys should be walking through those doors any second now to sign the papers publicly. We are going to make history." The double doors at the back of the hall swung open. The room turned. 3 men in immaculate, sharp gray suits walked in. They carried leather briefcases and radiated an aura of absolute power. The man in the center was Julian Rivers, my JR. He was the legal counsel for Omni-Sys. Bryce's grin was so wide it looked painful. He jumped off the stage and practically ran toward them. "Gentlemen, welcome, welcome." Bryce extended his hand to Julian. "I'm Bryce Sterling. We've been emailing. So glad you could make it for the big reveal." Julian stopped. He looked at Bryce's hand, then up at his face, but he didn't shake it. He just adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Sterling," Julian said, his voice projecting clearly across the silent room, "we are not here to sign a deal with you." The room went deadly quiet. The smile slid off Bryce's face like slush. "Excuse me? We have a verbal agreement. I sent over the term sheets last week." "You sent term sheets to a generic intake email," Julian corrected coldly. "We never countersigned. In fact, Omni-Sys has no interest in acquiring sterling manufacturing under its current management." Elena pushed her way through the crowd, her face flushed. "Now see here. You can't just barge in and embarrass my son. Who do you think you are?" "I am Julian Rivers, Chief Legal Officer for Omni-Sys," he said calmly. "And I am here because we received a distress call regarding the financial integrity of this company. We are here to audit the books before we even consider a purchase. And we are here to speak to the chairman." "I am the chairman," Arthur spoke up, stepping forward, looking confused and terrified. "I'm Arthur Sterling." Julian nodded respectfully to my father. "Mr. Sterling, you are the founder, yes. But according to the holding company that actually owns the majority of Omni-Sys, we answer to the chairman of the board. And we were told he is in this room." Whispers erupted. Bryce looked panicked. "What are you talking about? There's no secret chairman. It's my dad, and then me." Julian ignored him. He scanned the room. His eyes swept past the politicians, past the models, past the family, and landed on me. I pushed off the pillar. I set my glass of sparkling water down on a passing tray. I didn't fix my suit. I didn't change my expression. I just walked through the center of the crowd. "Mason?" my father whispered as I walked past him. "What are you doing? Sit down." "It's okay, Dad," I said softly. I stopped in front of Julian and the legal team. Julian bowed his head slightly. "Sir, the documents are ready." "Thank you, Julian," I said. My voice was different now. The hesitation was gone. The poor dropout act was dropped. This was the voice I used in boardrooms in Tokyo and New York. Bryce laughed. A nervous, high-pitched sound. Wait, wait, you're joking, right? This is the help. This is Mason. He lives in a studio apartment. He doesn't even have a job. I turned to face my stepbrother. I don't have a job, Bryce, because I don't need one. I own the company that you're begging for money. Bullshit, Elena shrieked. He's a liar. He's always been a liar. Julian, I said, not looking away from Elena. Please put the visual on the screen. Julian tapped a tablet. The massive projection screen behind the stage, intended for Bryce's presentation, flickered to life. It displayed the corporate structure of Omni-Sys. At the top was a holding company, MAS Holdings. MAS, I said. Mason Arthur Sterling. I founded Omni-Sys 4 years ago. The odd jobs I was doing on my laptop? That was me coding the proprietary AI algorithm that runs half the logistics networks in this country. I sold the license for $3 billion 2 years ago. The silence in the room was absolute. It was heavy, suffocating. You could hear the ice melting in the buckets. My father looked like he had been struck by lightning. Mason? You built Omni-Sys. I did, Dad. And I kept it quiet because I wanted to see who in this family actually gave a damn about me, and who was just counting the days until you died so they could cash out. I turned my gaze to Bryce. He was sweating profusely now. You said you were a closer, Bryce. You said you were negotiating with Omni-Sys. I signaled Julian again. The screen changed. It was a series of emails. This, I pointed to the screen, is a thread of emails between Bryce and a shell company I set up. Bryce, you didn't just try to sell the company. You tried to sell off the pension fund. You agreed to liquidate the factory floor, fire 400 employees, people who have worked for Dad for 30 years, just to secure a higher signing bonus for yourself. The crowd gasped. My father's face turned from shock to horror. He looked at the emails, seeing Bryce's signature agreeing to strip the company for parts. Dad, Bryce stammered, backing away. It's just business. I was going to make us rich. And you, Elena, I continued, signaling Julian for the next slide. It was a scanned document, a power of attorney draft and a brochure for a care facility, a low-end state home. My legal team found this on your laptop, I said, my voice cold as ice. You were planning to declare Dad mentally incompetent within 6 months of the merger. You were going to dump him in a state-run facility and take the payout to Monte Carlo. Elena went pale. She looked at Arthur, reaching for his hand. Arthur, baby, it's a fabrication. Mason fabricated it. He hates us. Arthur Sterling stepped back. For the first time in years, his spine was straight. He looked at the woman he had married, and the son he had raised, and he finally saw the vipers they were. Don't touch me, Arthur said. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a sledgehammer. Arthur, I said, don't touch me, he roared, startling the room. He turned to Bryce. I trusted you. I was going to give you everything. And you were going to fire old Mrs. Higgins? You were going to fire the floor managers? Men who held you when you were a baby. Dad, Get out, Arthur said. What? Elena gasped. Get out of my house. Arthur pointed to the door. Both of you. Get out before I call the police and have you dragged out for fraud. You can't do that. Elena screamed. This is my house too. Actually, I interrupted. It's not. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my inside pocket. Dad was struggling with the mortgage payments 6 months ago because Bryce was draining the company accounts. The bank was going to foreclose. I bought the note. I own the house, Elena, and you are trespassing. I looked at the security team by the door, men I had hired specifically for tonight. I gave them a nod. They moved in. The scene that followed was pathetic. Elena screaming about her rights, Bryce crying and threatening to sue. They were escorted out, their shouts fading as the heavy oak doors slammed shut behind them. The party was over. The guests were murmuring, unsure of what to do. I turned to the crowd. Thank you all for coming. The party is over. Please drive safely. Slowly, the room cleared out until it was just the catering staff cleaning up, Julian packing his briefcase, and my father and me standing in the middle of the empty ballroom. My father sank into a chair, putting his head in his hands. He looked broken. "I didn't know, Mason," he whispered. "I swear to God, I didn't know about the home, or the pensions." I pulled up a chair and sat opposite him. "I know, Dad. They were good at hiding it. That's why I had to do this. I had to expose them completely so you couldn't deny it anymore." He looked up at me, tears in his eyes. "You built all this, Omni-Sys? You're a billionaire." "On paper, yeah." I shrugged. "But money doesn't matter if your family is rotting from the inside." "I failed you," he said. "I let her treat you like garbage. I let Bryce mock you. And you just saved my life." "You're my dad," I said. "You made mistakes, but you're not malicious. You were just blind." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small, simply wrapped box I had given him earlier, the one he had put on the table. "Open it," I said. He undid the ribbon with trembling hands. Inside was a simple steel key. "What is this?" he asked. "That," I said, "is the key to the new R&D facility for Sterling Manufacturing. I'm not buying your company, Dad. I'm investing in it. I'm firing the board, I'm firing the management, and I'm putting you back in charge of engineering, the part you actually love. My team will handle the business side. No one gets fired. No pensions get lost." He stared at the key, then at me, and then he pulled me into a hug that knocked the wind out of me. He sobbed into my shoulder, the weight of years of stress finally lifting. "Thank you," he choked out. "I'm so sorry, Mason. I'm so sorry." "It's okay, Dad." I patted his back. "The masks are off now. Reality is unmasked." Epilogue. It's been 6 months since that night. The fallout was spectacular. Bryce tried to sue, but Julian buried him under so much litigation that Bryce eventually had to flee the state to avoid fraud charges. He's currently working as a shift manager at a car rental place in Nevada. Elena tried to claim alimony, but the prenup she signed years ago, combined with the evidence of her conspiracy to commit elder abuse, left her with nothing. I hear she's living with her sister in a one-bedroom apartment, complaining to anyone who will listen about how she was robbed. As for Sterling Manufacturing, it's thriving. With the infusion of tech from Omni-Sys, we pivoted to robotics. My dad is happier than I've ever seen him. He spends his days on the factory floor, grease on his hands, building things. And me? I went back to wearing hoodies and jeans. I still work from coffee shops sometimes. Last week, I ran into Bryce at a gas station while I was on a road trip. He was washing the windshield of a customer's car. He saw me pumping gas into my new Aston Martin. He stopped wiping. He looked at me, then at the car, then back at his rag. He didn't say a word. He just looked down and kept scrubbing. Some people learn humility the easy way. Others have to have it forced upon them. I got in my car, revved the engine, and drove off. Justice isn't just about punishment. Sometimes, it's just about setting the world right side up again. And that is my unmasked reality.